The man sitting across from you at the hotel bar does not know he has 17 minutes left to live. He is drinking a single malt scotch, his second, and checking his phone with the mild impatience of someone waiting for a dinner reservation to be confirmed. His name, the name on his Lebanese passport, is Tariq Mansour. That is not his real name. His real name appears in a file assembled over 31 months by 4 separate intelligence services, currently sitting in a secure server room beneath a building in Glilo that does not appear on any public map. The file is 340 pages. You have read every page, twice. You know he is a senior procurement officer for Hezbollah's Unit 4400, the division responsible for transferring precision-guided missile components from Iranian Revolutionary Guard facilities to underground storage sites in the Bekaa Valley. You know the neighborhood in Beirut where his mother lives, the school his son attends, the cardiologist he sees every 3 months for a condition he has told no one about. Your glass is still half full. You will not finish it. In 11 minutes you will stand, pay in cash, walk to the elevator and press 6. The door to room 614 was unlocked 4 hours ago by someone you have never met and will never meet. Everything you need is already inside. You are a Kidon operative. Kidon means bayonet in Hebrew. It is the most restricted, most compartmentalized subunit within the Mossad'S Caesarea division. Its existence has never been officially confirmed by the State of Israel. The people who know your real name can be counted on one hand. This is your life at every rank. Level 1, the candidate. You did not find Kidon. Kidon found you, and only after the Mossad had already recruited you, trained you, and deployed you for 3 years as a functioning Katsa in Western Europe. The unit does not recruit from the outside. It recruits from within, and only from operatives who have already proven something that cannot be faked across years of genuine field exposure. You were 27, posted in Frankfurt undercover as a compliance officer for a Dutch logistics firm. 2 recruited sources in 18 months. Your file had been flagged. A man you had never seen attended a routine debrief at a safe house near Sachsenhausen. He wore no watch. He sat across from you for 4 hours and asked nothing about your agents or your intelligence production. He asked about the moment 6 months earlier when you had identified a surveillance team in the Frankfurt train station and, instead of aborting, spent 40 minutes walking them through 4 transit changes, then sat down in a station cafe and waited to see what they would do. You had categorized it as counterintelligence rather than hostile interdiction, and made a judgment call that turned out to be correct. He wanted to know how you had made that distinction under pressure. You told him. He listened the way someone listens when they are measuring something other than the content of your words. He shook your hand when he left. He said nothing else. 3 weeks later, a routing message arrived through your dead drop. A date, a time, a village in the hills east of Tel Aviv. Bring your cover passport and nothing from your current legend. You were being evaluated for something the message did not name. You knew better than to ask. Level 2, the assessment. The property was behind a stone wall on the edge of a village in the Judean foothills. Inside, it looked like nothing you had been prepared for. There were 9 other people in the room. You recognized none of them. Within Caesarea, compartmentalization is not a procedural habit. It is a survival mechanism. The assessment lasted 11 days. It was not a training course. It was an extended observation designed to reveal things that formal testing cannot. You slept 4 hours a night. You were given incomplete information and asked to make decisions. You were placed in simulated scenarios where the correct answer was unavailable, and you had to act anyway. You were asked to lie convincingly across a continuous 4-hour interaction, while simultaneously processing information a second evaluator was feeding through an earpiece. The instructors were watching not for which tasks you completed, but for whether your demeanor shifted between morally uncomplicated tasks and ones that were not. They were looking for the absence of a visible gear change, a fractional hesitation, a shift in breathing, a quality of stillness different from ordinary concentration. The evaluators could read these signals the way a cardiologist reads an irregular rhythm. Of the 9 people in your initial group, 4 were gone by day 6. 1 left after a simulated close-range termination exercise on day 8, conducted under conditions realistic enough that an evaluator described it afterward, without irony, as a rehearsal. You completed it. By day 11, 5 people remained. A senior officer walked in and said, "You are now Kidon candidates." It was the first time anyone in that building had said the word aloud in your presence. He told you the next phase would determine whether you finished the process. He did not tell you what it involved. He did not have to. Level 3. The training operative. Kidon training has no fixed location. It moves. Over 18 months, you train in facilities across 3 countries, in urban environments and controlled indoor spaces constructed to replicate specific operational environments with a precision that feels less like training and more like rehearsal for something already planned. The physical curriculum is not what popular depictions suggest. Close quarters engagement at ranges under 3 meters. Weapons platforms assembled from commercially available components in a country where you have no support infrastructure. The ability to move through a public environment carrying equipment invisible, not just to casual observation, but to the trained visual scanning that security professionals perform as automatic reflex. But the larger portion of training is psychological and procedural. You study operations that succeeded and, in more detail, operations that failed. The 1973 Lillehammer affair, in which a Mossad team killed an innocent Moroccan waiter mistaken for Black September operative Ali Hassan Salameh. You spend more time on failures than successes because failures contain the variables that success conceals. The authorization chain is not a bureaucratic formality. It is the mechanism by which the irreversible act of ending a human life is connected to the most rigorous possible verification that the correct life is being ended. You learn the Hebrew term used internally for an authorized Kidon target. The closest English equivalent is designated, but the Hebrew carries something English does not. It carries the implication of a decision made at a level of authority that has considered every alternative and concluded that no other instrument will serve. You are supposed to feel that weight. An operative who does not is not more effective. They are more dangerous. You graduate. There is no ceremony. The same officer from the assessment looks at the 3 people remaining and says, "You are operational." You go back to your apartment in Tel Aviv and sit on the balcony and look at the city for a long time. Level 4. The junior operative. Your first Kidon assignment is not a termination. This surprises everyone who has only encountered the unit through secondary accounts. Kidon operatives spend a significant portion of their careers on operations that do not involve kinetic action. Surveillance of high-value targets, reconnaissance of operational environments, preparation of infrastructure for operations that may never execute. This work is, in many respects, more demanding than the terminal phase because it is open-ended. You are in the field for weeks, sometimes months, under deep cover, generating intelligence on a target whose designation has not yet been confirmed. Knowing the entire operation may be cancelled, and all of it will have been preparation for nothing. Your first assignment takes you to Istanbul for 6 weeks. The target is a Lebanese businessman moving funds between Gulf donors and a procurement network purchasing dual-use components for Hezbollah's precision missile program. He has not been designated. You are there to determine whether he should be. You document his movements for 4 weeks, identify 3 regular contacts, determine one is himself under a false identity. You receive no feedback from headquarters. In the 5th week, the target begins varying his routine in ways that suggest he has become operationally aware. You report it. Headquarters says, hold. On the 41st day, extract immediately. No explanation. You are on a flight to Vienna by that evening. The operation does not appear in any form you ever see. You learn to find sufficiency in doing the assigned work with precision, regardless of whether the conclusion is ever visible to you. This is harder than it sounds. Level 5. The designated operative. The first time you are part of a team executing a designated operation, you have been with Kidon for 2 years and 4 months. You know the target's face better than the faces of most people in your actual life. You have studied surveillance photographs, video footage from 3 observation positions over 8 weeks, a behavioral analysis built entirely from observational data by a psychologist who has never met him. You know he turns his phone face down in important meetings. You know he always checks the restaurant bill even when someone else is paying. You know his 3-second pause before answering a question he finds uncomfortable. The margin between a clean outcome and a disaster is exactly the size of the gap in your knowledge. The team is 7 people. You have trained with 2 of them. You will not exchange names with the other 4. The terminal phase takes less than 90 seconds. Your role is position coverage, managing a specific set of variables in the operational environment during those 90 seconds and the 12 minutes of extraction that follow. You manage them. You are on a commercial flight out of the country 4 hours and 20 minutes later. You sit in an aisle seat and read a magazine and do not think about what happened 4 hours ago. Not because you are suppressing it, but because maintaining cover psychology until you are in a controlled environment is not optional. The debrief takes 7 hours. You eat dinner alone. You sleep deeply, which surprises you. In the morning, it does not. You understand for the first time what the training was actually preparing you for. Not the act, the aftermath. The continuation of ordinary life inside the knowledge of what you have done. Not whether you could complete the operation, whether you could remain functional after it. Level 6, the senior operative. 7 years in Kidon, 11 operations across 9 countries. Your cover identities have been tested by 2 hostile counterintelligence services and survived both, 1 narrowly. You are what the unit calls a proven combatant. At this rank, you are the principal operative on designated operations. The decisions about method and timing are yours within the framework the planning team establishes. You study targets with an intimacy that has no equivalent in any other professional context. You know them not as enemies, but as human beings whose particular habits have been mapped with clinical precision to determine when and where the window will open. The window is what the unit calls the set of circumstances in which an operation can proceed with the lowest possible exposure risk. Finding it sometimes takes weeks, sometimes it never opens. You have prepared for 4 operations that were suspended and never resumed. You carried the preparation for each in a compartment that does not interfere with your functioning, but does not close. You lead a team for the first time in your 6th year. The operation is in Southeast Asia. The target is a North Korean technician consulting on ballistic missile stabilization systems. On the 3rd day, a variable in his routine shifts in a way the pre-operational surveillance did not predict. You abort the primary method and execute the secondary within a 4-minute window that was not in the rehearsed plan. The team extracts clean. The internal review commends the decision to shift under pressure. It also notes 3 planning assumptions that should have been verified before deployment and were not. You write those 3 items into a document used in future planning training. You put your name on it. The failures belong to you as completely as the outcomes. Level 7. The unit commander. You command Kidon. Every team, every active operation, every target in the authorized designation pipeline, and every operative whose safety is a direct function of the decisions made at your desk. You have been inside this unit for 18 years. You report to the head of Caesarea, and through that chain to the Mossad director. You sit on the senior operational committee, where every new designation is evaluated. You are the person in that room who represents operational reality, not geopolitics, not legal frameworks, but whether the window can be opened, what the team exposure risk is at each phase, and what happens when the operation encounters a variable outside the contingency framework. 2 operations during your command tenure are canceled by the Prime Minister's office after full authorization at every lower level of the chain. In one case, your team is already in country when the cancellation arrives. You extract them. You receive no explanation and do not ask for one. There are no protocols for reversing a cancellation. You bring the team home. One of them calls you 2 weeks later, not to discuss the operation, but because they have not slept properly since the extraction. You tell them yes, you have experienced this. You tell them the specific form it took for you. You tell them it resolved. You do not tell them when. Your eldest child served in a Sayeret unit and came home with a quietness you recognize from the inside. You sat with them one evening and did not talk about your work or their service. You talked about your father and their grandmother and the character of the country that produced both of you and asked of both of you the specific price it asks. It was the closest you came in your entire professional life to full honesty with a member of your family. It did not require disclosure, only the acknowledgement of a shared understanding that had never previously been spoken. the end of the file. Your tenure ends after 6 years. The transition takes 4 months and 117 briefings, transferring knowledge that exists nowhere in written form because it cannot be. You walk out of the Glylote facility on a Tuesday morning in March. Your security detail is gone. You are not the unit commander. You are not, in any formal operational sense, anything. You have a coffee near the beach that you have not visited in years. You sit for a long time. You are thinking about what the work was actually for, not the strategic rationale, which you could recite without pausing. The deeper question, the one beneath every designated operation, and every canceled one, and every team member sent into an environment where the margin between clean extraction and catastrophe was measured in seconds. The answer is not simple, and not, if you are honest, entirely comfortable. But it is real. A small country built not on a political principle, but an existential one. Never again will the people who built this place be without the means to defend it. The Kidon unit is the sharpest expression of that principle, and the one that is never publicly acknowledged, because acknowledging it would require the state to explain things about itself that the international order cannot comfortably contain. You have lived inside that gap for 24 years. It did not diminish you. It is, you have come to understand, a different kind of integrity, not the integrity of transparency, the integrity of purpose. Somewhere in Glilo right now, a 28-year-old Katsa who has been flagged in 3 separate evaluations is being brought in for an assessment no one has explained. They received a message through an unexpected channel, a location, a date, 6 days to decide whether to appear. They are sitting in their apartment reading it for the 4th time, feeling the pull of something that has not yet been named. They do not know about training facilities that move, operations in countries where discovery means silence and detention, targets studied with an intimacy normal life never requires, the weight of designated decisions in compartments that do not close. They only know that something in the message felt true in a way ordinary life has not felt for a long time. That is exactly sufficient. It was never sufficient preparation. It was always sufficient beginning. The assessment room is waiting. The unit continues. The bayonet does not rest between hands, only between names.